We're going to take a look at our notes on colons today. So grab your guided note paper, and we have 8 rules we're going to work our way through. I'm going to probably break my video up into 2 different sections just because there's such a lot of notes I'm going to throw at you. So here we go. So we're looking at the colon, which is our second of 4 punctuation marks we're looking at with our Fab 4 punctuation marks for the SAT. So the colon is a mark of anticipation. So what we mean by that is it's quite recognizable, and it's commonly, but it's not always used correctly. So it's commonly used, but it's not always used correctly. So it has more flexibility than a semicolon. It is certainly underestimated, though, as a punctuation mark. And I think we should really bring it back and use it much, much more. So there's nothing final about the colon. So I want you to remember that the colon is not a point of finality. It's always sort of anticipating something that's going to follow it. That's why we call it a mark of anticipation. So our first rule we have is that the colon we can use as a way of formally introducing something. So what I mean by that is we can introduce a very long quotation. We can introduce a statement in a very formal manner. So it naturally points forward. So oftentimes there are these pointer words that you're going to find with it. Words like this and thus and as follows, the following, these words in part. You'll see these pointer words, and then you'll see the colon. So for example, the most streamed song in the United Kingdom, more than 50 years after its initial release, is this: The Beatles' Here Comes the Sun. So here's our pointer word this, and then I put the colon afterward as a way of formally introducing the statement. Another example, if I said the underestimated Beatle, George Harrison, said the following: I wasn't Lennon or I wasn't McCartney, I was me. And the only reason I started to write songs was because I thought, well, if they can write them, I can. So here is the following. Once again, another pointer word, the following, and then the colon comes after the pointer word. The second rule we're going to look at is that a colon is used before a list of appositives. So we know what an appositive is. A positive is renaming a noun. And so appositives could be words, they could be phrases, they could also even be sentences. So an appositive is renaming that noun. Typically, it's renaming a noun. So the colon's going to then follow that initial noun by then leading us into that listing. So if I could say, before they were the Beatles, the boys from Liverpool went by a number of other names: the Quarrymen, Johnny and the Moondogs, and the Silverbeats. So here's that colon, and here's that appositive. I'm using that phrase, a number of other names, and then I list the other names. So this is an example of a positive with a series of words. Here's an example of phrases. Thinking the lyric cranberry sauce was I buried Paul. True, they really did think that's what they were saying. Conspiracy theorists looked for various clues of McCartney's death on the Abbey Road album cover: the license plate number, the barefoot Beatle, the colors of their clothing, the cigarette in Paul's hand. What I've done here is I've used this idea of clues, and that's my noun that I'm going to make an appositive of, and then I put in the colon, and now I listed a series of phrases, not words, but phrases that are saying, hey, here are the various clues on this particular album cover, which people thought were clues that Paul McCartney had in fact died. And so there are my listing of phrases. And I can also do the same thing with sentences. This is kind of elevated. This is a little more advanced, but I think it's a really good skill to have. So their skills as musicians make them almost anomalies today. They wrote their own music. They each played a myriad of instruments. They revolutionized the science of recording. So here I've used that word skills as my appositive, and the colon leads me not into phrases or words, but actual sentences. You'll notice that my sentences have periods at the very end of them, so I'm not listing with commas, but I can still treat them all as appositives of that word skills, but I'm renaming them with full sentences. That's a really cool skill to have. Rule number 3, we use a colon to lead into an explanation. So an explanation can sound a lot like an appositive, and it could be, but doesn't necessarily have to be renaming an exact noun. Really what you're doing is you're sort of clarifying something that you said in the first half of the sentence, and now you're clarifying it as an explanation. So if I said, scores of young fans were disappointed when Paul McCartney revealed the identity of his love in the song Martha My Dear, colon. Well, then let's add to this. It was his English sheepdog. So you'll notice here that now I've added an explanation. Now, you could say, isn't that a positive of the word identity? It could be. But you could also look at it as simply being an explanation. But that's another variation of the use of the colon. Our fourth rule is that we use a colon to form a compound sentence. This is a really important one, so let's star this one on your note sheet. All right, we use a colon to actually form compound sentences. So unlike the semicolon, which kind of connects two sentences and it has sort of a connotation of the word and, but we don't use the word and with a semicolon, the colon has more versatility to it. So the colon can connect two sentences in order to do a number of things. I'm going to sneeze. Bless me. All right, it can explain the first sentence. It can amplify the first sentence. It can imply the word and, but it can also imply the word additionally. It can also connote the meaning, or I'm going to sneeze again. Bless me, sorry. It can also connote the meaning of namely. And those are all ways of actually using the colon to create a compound sentence. Remember, if it's a compound sentence, then it has to be a full sentence on both sides. So here's an example. In the song Let It Be, Paul sings how Mother Mary comes to him in times of trouble. Colon. He's referring to his mother, but understands how it can be interpreted as the Virgin Mary. So this is so much better than a comma and. It'd be silly to say comma and he's referring to his mother. No, it's even more effective than the semicolon, because the semicolon once again kind of means the word and. The colon is a way of drawing a connection from the first sentence directly into the second. So way to go, colon. I like that. All right, I'm going to pause my video and then restart it with my back half of rules 5 through 8.